Hey boot campers, welcome back to another video. This is David, your guide to gastroenterology, and we're going to be talking about ventral and abdominal wall defects today. So these come from fold closure failures. Now we talked a little bit about these folds during our physiologic overview. Let's bring back that little diagram we were using then. So now that we've brought back our diagram from our physiologic overview video, let's take a look again at what's happening here. So we have our ectoderm again here coming around the sides, and it's folding in like so. Now this squeezing that's happening here is what we're going to be discussing when we talk about a failure in lateral fold closure. So again, we have our midgut herniating out through this vitelline duct, this omphalomesenteric duct. And there are two main ways that this can fail. We can either have the midgut escape out the side, like so, or we can have the midgut herniate out like so and then stay outside of the body. Now these two things are called gastroschisis when it escapes out the side, and omphalocele when it escapes and stays within our peritoneal membrane. The other two fold closures are the ones that I've drawn out here. So this is again happening during week 3, but this view right here is looking at our fold closure happening from a posterior or a caudal through to cranial viewpoint. Meanwhile, when we're looking at it from a sagittal perspective, we're going to see our cranial end over here and our caudal end over here. A failure in proper caudal fold closure is going to result in something known as bladder exstrophy, which is where the bladder forms outside of the abdominal cavity. We can also have a rostral fold closure, which is something that happens over towards our cranial side. This is going to be the area where the heart is being made, and a failure in the rostral fold closure will result in ectopia cordis, which is where the heart is outside of the body. Now, these two things aren't particularly related to the gastrointestinal section. However, I just wanted to point them out to you because gastroschisis and omphalocele are essentially the gastrointestinal versions of bladder exstrophy and ectopia cordis. So let's get into our major herniations. The first one is going to be omphalocele. An omphalocele is going to present midline because this is a herniation through our umbilical ring into the peritoneal sac right here. This baby here is suffering from an omphalocele. You can see that the intestines are herniated out and they are contained within that peritoneum. So it's a herniation into the umbilical cord with the peritoneum present. Importantly, this has a lot of genetic associations, including trisomy 18, which is Edwards syndrome, trisomy 13, which is Patau syndrome, and Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. It is not particularly associated with Down syndrome. One of the most important things I can tell you about an omphalocele is the rise in maternal alpha-fetoprotein. Why is that? Because omphalocele will result in an increase in maternal alpha-fetoprotein. However, other things do too, including spina bifida. Now, while omphalocele does present with that rise in maternal alpha-fetoprotein, trisomy 18 and 13 each present with a decrease in maternal alpha-fetoprotein. So you could actually end up with a normal maternal alpha-fetoprotein or an omphalocele that is hiding trisomy 18 or 13. So keep in mind that while trisomy 18 and 13 are associated with a decreased maternal alpha-fetoprotein, normally omphalocele is associated with an increase, but that is variable. Meanwhile, gastroschisis is a whole different ballgame compared to omphalocele. Gastroschisis is classically right-sided, meaning that it doesn't come out through the umbilicus like the midline omphalocele, but instead it comes out on the right side paraumbilically, like so. And this is a herniation through the abdominal folds. Like I drew earlier, this isn't a midline herniation, this is a herniation out the side, like so. And this is covered by no peritoneum and is a surgical emergency. And very importantly, you will have around a 10-fold increase in maternal alpha-fetoprotein compared to baseline. I also want to bring up congenital umbilical hernia, which is when the umbilical ring fails to close properly. This is covered by skin and can be spontaneously reduced, and this is associated with congenital hypothyroidism and Down syndrome. So remember, omphalocele, not associated with Down syndrome. Congenital umbilical hernia, yes, associated with Down syndrome, covered by skin. Omphalocele not covered by skin, but yes, covered by peritoneum. Gastroschisis covered by no peritoneum, surgical emergency, and associated with a rise in maternal alpha-fetoprotein. Make sure you're not mistaking that for spina bifida. And then whether or not it's associated with another condition, including trisomy 18, 13 in Beckwith-Wiedemann for omphalocele, or congenital hypothyroidism or Down syndrome for your congenital umbilical hernia. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.